Good afternoon. Welcome back to Driver's Ed. Uh, we'll be starting in a few minutes once we have everybody here. The camera is slipping just a little bit on top of my computer, so I had to make some adjustments. So remember, as we stated before, to get credit for today's class, you need to log in, put your name in the comments, and then to remember to text. So people should be texting that they are in attendance for today. Please remember to do um, the homework on a timely manner. I'm going to wait. I know there's a lag, so it's going to be a little bit difficult to keep up on the comments of everybody that's jumping in, and I don't expect people to be here right at the very beginning at the top of 4 o'clock, but people should be coming in as we start going. So it looks like there's 4 or 5 of you in right now. Hello, hello. Good afternoon. Hey, Mark, Natalie, Rachel, Clayton, Owen, Addison. Very good. I don't know about you, but man, this Monday's just dragging. I don't know what school is like for you online with your other classes, but I spent probably about 2 hours today just getting this presentation to be adequate for an online class, changing over the pictures, some of the video clips, trying to work out some kinks. So hopefully you'll get a lot from this class. Hey, Devin. I was looking at going into Zoom. If anybody is using Zoom for other classes that you've got, could you just leave me a comment? Let me know how that's working out for you. I kind of like the setup that we have right here. I've got this room set up right for me. Plus, I get to show you my PowerPoint on the computer, and I can be tucked away on the side just a little bit. So, hey, Josie, Brooke. So it looks like we almost got a full class. Uh, couple things. As I said, some of you weren't on at the time. Please do your homework. So do your reading. Send me a copy of the assessment. I'm going to do something a little bit different. Hey, Joey. I'm going to do something a little bit different with this week's class because we've got a lot of information. We're going to get through today, tomorrow, Wednesday, Thursday. And at the end of Thursday's class, I'll send out a PDF or of like an overview of the 3 subjects that we're going to cover this week, rather than send out the PDF of a larger overview of the chapters that you're reading. So between this week and next week, we've got probably 4 more chapters to do from the textbook. We'll kind of hit up on the state manual just a little bit. Yeah, I thought privacy was going to be a problem. I heard Northwood is having a problem with that. Um, I kind of like this, so I think I'm going to probably stay with it. The other thing that we've got to look at is that your class is going to be ending next week. And unfortunately, we don't get back to the high school until May. So I've got another class starting. So I'm going to have to find a way to get textbooks from you so I can give them to the new class. So get out your notebooks, get out a pen, pencil, whatever, and we're going to dive into what we're going to cover today. It's kind of ironic. I was looking at the news this morning, and in the forecast, it says snow. Now, the unfortunate thing for us is that we're not driving right now, so we don't get to experience that. And every week that goes by, it's going to be harder and harder for you to experience driving in snow. And I would say that even though you're not driving with me, you should probably go out tomorrow if you can. Grab about 15 minutes to a half hour, especially early in the morning when we still have snow on the ground, and kind of go out and get a little feel of driving in the snow. I don't think it's going to be much, but it should be enough that you could find some areas where it's accumulated, and you may find the tire spinning or stopping is going to be a little bit longer, a little bit greater than normal. So that would be a good experience for you. But if you take a look at the picture that's in front of you right now, it says hazardous driving conditions, what a mess. This picture was taken from the Boston Globe, probably about 5 years ago, and it kind of got my attention, and I looked at all those vehicles that are crashed into one another, and I said, geez, I know the weather's bad, but does it have to be so many people involved in a crash like this? So this is what I want you to write down, that in the winter time and any time that it's difficult to drive, we're talking about adverse weather conditions, I want you to write down there are two things that you should always be trying to gain control of. Control your following distance. We know we need 4 seconds in front of us. We also know that we have our left and side of our vehicle, left and right side of our vehicle, and behind us. Now, write this down in your notes, the only area that you have complete control of is the area in front of you. Because when cars are to the left and right or behind you, if you speed up, they can speed up with you. But if you have a vehicle in front of you and you feel you're getting too close, you have the ability to back off. So you have more control over the front than you do all other 3 sides that are around your vehicle. So this is what I want you to write down in bad weather. The 2 things that you always have to remember is, how's my following distance? That's number 1. And secondly, is my speed at a point that if I had to stop quickly, no matter what happens in front of me, can I stop? If we look back at this picture, the problem is cars were too close. So they weren't working on what we talked about being the first issue. And there was a tipping point between where their brakes are going to grab the roadway and to be able to stop their vehicle. So if they had more than 5 or 6 seconds and they weren't going, let's say they all crashed into one another going 35, 40 miles per hour. If they were going about, let's say 20, 25 miles per hour, I'd almost guarantee that this wouldn't happen. But what happens is that one car starts to lose control and other cars are going too fast and their following distance is too close, and they start to slip and slide, leave their lane, and that's when cars are trying to miss them, and then they create a problem. Okay, let me show you a video. Let's see if this works.
An expressway slick with ice, black ice, thin, nearly invisible to drivers. The ice has caused a car to crash in the fast lane. Trooper Jeff Oken parks his cruiser to prevent a pileup. But behind him, drivers are approaching way too fast.
Okay, what do you think happened? What do you think happened with the person that was approaching the police officer? More than likely, they didn't have enough distance and time to get around, and they probably crashed in. So that led to a crash. Let's take a look at, let's see if this works here. I'm trying to, I guess I'm going to have to click. Let's take a look at one more compilation of videos of people driving in bad weather.
I'll tell you, baby, we can go for a ride if you're hungry. I'm searching for the streets tonight. Look at your heart too. What if I showed you how I'm getting off of you? Baby, I think it's alright.
So you get the whole idea of all these cars were going too fast. They were following too closely. Some of them I call into question whether they really wanted to get out of the skid that they were in because they were going a lot longer and further than I think most people that are under control that can stop their vehicle. So there are three types of winter weather that I want you to write down, and we're going to do this in order. So the worst type of weather in the winter to drive in is an icy situation. So what I want you to write down, uh, November, December, and then write February to March. Like right now, we're basically almost out of the area where we're going to have black ice on the road. And that's the first clip that we saw was black ice. And black ice, of course, by definition, it takes on the color of pavement. So we don't really think that it's there. It looks like pavement, but really it's ice. And the reason why December, November, and then February, March is when the temperatures get warm enough to kind of thaw the roadway and make it wet. But in the evening and early morning, it freezes over and it causes ice to form. And when we're going to school or when we're coming home at night, when it starts to get colder, we don't really think that it's a bad surface to drive on. So we don't change our speed in our following distance, and we have a problem driving because we're on the black ice. So let's talk a few things about black ice. Oh, my clicker's not working. I kind of like this picture. Drivers ignoring winter conditions may be subject to natural selection. So basically, if you do not learn from what you're getting today and what you're going to be experiencing when you're out on the road in winter weather, Mother Nature takes over. As you can see, those cars, the clips that we saw, it's just going to throw you into a skid and you're going to go all over the place. So if you're not good, you're not good. You know, you really can't fake it in the wintertime. So let's kind of go through 4 questions on each type of winter weather. So let's talk about ice. Ice, of course, is frozen water. And the question at the end here is, where is it found? Now, I don't want to be too simplistic here, but remember how we talked about roads being banked and crowned? So we know that water is draining off to the side. So in your notes, black ice is going to form more than likely over on the white edge line or the fog line on the right side of the road. That's where we find our potholes. So it still may be towards the center, but it's going to be a little bit thicker, a little bit worse over to the right. So you're going to be driving. This is what type of problem does it create? It's only a traction problem. So in your notes, ice does not cause a vision problem. It is solely a traction problem. Third question, where should you drive on the road? Slightly left of center. Remember we talked about the different lane positions? So here we're leaving our center position and we're going more towards the left of center, okay, to get better traction. And the speed that you should drive, and this should come to you from a video that we watched back in the second week of class. Put down less than 15 miles per hour. Remember how we talked about airbags will deploy at speeds faster than 15? So if you're going less than 15, you're not going to do serious damage to the vehicle, and it's not going to be a life or death situation with your driving, but it also won't let the airbags deploy. It's pretty expensive to get new airbags put in the vehicle. So less than 15 is probably what you're going to go until you know you've got better traction. And we're going to see this in the other 2 types of winter weather we're going to be talking about, is that you're always starting out slow and you're driving to the point where you start to feel that you don't have control anymore, and then you're coming back a little bit. So let's say that the speed limit is 30. We've got ice. You hit the 15. You think you go a little bit faster. That's fine. Go up to 17, 18. But right around 19 or 20, you're starting to feel the car at times. Traction isn't quite what it was earlier at a lower speed. Bring it back down. Don't push it right at that tipping point. You always want to come back a little bit from there. This is what black ice is. It forms on the roadway, and it's a very thin layer. So I found this picture of where it was raining in the evening, and it was so cold as the rain hit the metal of the speed limit sign, it would freeze. And when more rain came, it started to collect and freeze until early morning where it started to thaw again. And then it started to slide off the sign. So that is a very thin layer of ice. And that is what we would probably consider thickness of what black ice would be. The other thing I want you to write down in your notes is bridges freeze first because of the air circulation below a bridge and above a bridge. And when you think about it, we know we have pavement that takes us over the bridge, over the overpass, but when they build the bridge, it's made of metal. So metal is going to freeze or stay colder a lot longer than the thermal temperatures of the ground and the dirt that is going to make the roads thaw a little bit quicker in the spring. So metal stays cold a little bit longer. Okay, the second type of winter weather I want you to write down is sleet. Now, we know sleet is ice, but what sleet is it's the rain that's coming down but freezing just before it hits the ground. So sleet would probably be bouncing off your vehicle, or the wetness of between the snow and sleet, it's hitting the car and the surface of the road and then freezing upon contact because of the metal of your vehicle and the temperature that's down near around the ground rather than up higher. So it forms on the car. So what I want you to write down in your notes is that sleet is a vision problem, probably more than a traction problem. If you've ever been in a car where sleet has started to gather on the vehicle, the defrosters will keep the front windshield and a little bit off near your side windows clear. But when you get further back on the front windows, and of course the windows on the back seats would be totally frozen. And it almost looks like looking through stained glass, that you can see motion. You can see somewhat of an outline, but you're not going to see very well. So I think in bad weather where it's sleet on the ground, most people know they've got to go slower. But the sleet with the vision problem, visibility, people are making bad judgments on limited vision. So make sure your vision is good. Make sure that you're scraping your windows if the defroster is not doing a good job. Roll down the windows so that you can see. So sleet is really going to be a vision problem. Once again, drive left of center on the roadway. And you're going to start to see where tire marks of cars in front of you have driven. And once you get good at driving and positioning your vehicle, you should be able to target and line up your vehicle in the tire tracks of where other cars have driven. That is going to probably be a wet area in the wintertime, and you're going to get better traction. And we're going to talk more about that, but stay in those tracks. Speed, cut it in half, and then go up from there. So it's 35, 40, right around 20, maybe a little higher, a little lower. You know, like I said, try to find that point where you feel you've got control and kind of stay there. Try not to push it too far, kind of come back a little bit. The other thing you're going to remember is that don't have the mindset of driving like you normally do. Most of your driving is going to be to school, to work, to visit friends. So you're looking at a short drive, 15, 20 minutes when it's nice out. If you've got to go slower than the posted speed limit in bad weather, you're only adding on maybe 5, maybe 10 minutes. But if you're always from the mindset, this is what I normally do and always go this speed, you're going to run into problems. I can't tell you how many students I've had that have come back to me and their first crash was in the wintertime and they were pushing the vehicle a little bit faster than they should. And then, of course, the last type of winter weather that you're going to be driving in is snow. And remember, the worst type of snow to drive in is wet snow. So we're going to kind of categorize the two types of snow, wet and dry. So we know wet, just around freezing. It's going to be very clumpy. The problem why it's worse is that the wet snow will get stuck in the tread of your vehicle and it will create your tire to be a smooth surface like a slick tire. And all your tires will do is to spin. Dry snow will blow away from the surface of the roadway, will give you better traction, better contact with the roadway. You could probably go higher speeds with dry snow than you could do wet snow. The other thing about wet snow is it starts to accumulate on the windshield wipers and it forms ice. And before you know it, you're going to have blades that are coming up and down and just kind of blurring your vision. So you may have to pull over. Remember to put your parking lights on to let people know you're off to the side of the road, and clean the edge of the blade to make you sure you have a good clean surface wiping the windshield. It is a traction problem and a vision problem, so we're going to have to write that down. And where should you drive on the road? All the answers to all the questions with bad weather will be the tire marks of the cars in front of you. So try to do that. Speed, dry snow faster than wet snow. Maybe cut it by 10, 15 miles per hour, 5 or 10 at lower speeds. See what type of traction that you have, and then go from there. Now, if you become stuck in a snowstorm and you can't get out of your vehicle, let's say that you're going around the edge of the road and you caught a bad spot, not because you're going too fast or following too closely. The car just lost control and you went up over the edge of the snowbank and down an embankment. It's very easy for a car to lose control and go over an embankment, especially when the snowbanks are only like 2 feet, not the real high ones. You're not going to be seen by anybody that's driving by. They may see the entrance of the snowbanking, and if they can put two to two together, they'll know that you're down there. But as we said earlier about always having a charged phone when you're driving in bad weather, that way if anything bad happens, you could call your parents. We talked about AAA. The other thing is make sure your GPS is on or Find My Phone is on so people can find you. The other thing that I asked of my kids when they were driving is make sure that you let me know what route you're taking to get to where you're going and when you're coming back, and who do you have in the vehicle. I want to know, so if I get a phone call that my daughter is with one of her friends, that I want to know there's 3 people in the car. It's just going to make things a lot easier when parents start calling around, finding out why people aren't home. So that is a good thing to do when you're driving in bad weather. If you take a look at this picture, extreme snow conditions, if you took a real close look, it's photoshopped. That is not a real picture. But at times, what I want you to write down in your notes, because visibility is a problem as much as traction is, high snow bankings are going to cause people to stop further out into the roadway. This is why one thing we always want to do in bad weather is to stop early, do our legal stop, and then creep out, creep out, creep out with those safety stops so we don't catch anybody by surprise. Now, as this is just fiction, it's photoshopped, I want to show you a real picture, and the snowbank is extremely high. So let's take a look at this. This is actually in Presque Isle, Maine. So this is the northern part of Maine. If you take a look at the semi-tractor trailer, you're looking at probably snowbanks that are in excess of 10 to 11 feet. That's over the cab of the semi-tractor trailer truck. So when you get to the end of this roadway at an intersection, there's going to be a vision problem to your sides. So we've always got to take that into account when we drive with high snow bankings. So let's go through some things that we can do prior to driving in the wintertime. First of all, have a good sense of what it is like to lose control. So when it says get the feel for the road, I am a firm believer, I don't know if your parents will agree with me, they should take you someplace and allow you to drive, let's say 15, 20 miles per hour, hit the brakes and feel the car, the ABS kick in, and feel the car slide. You may want to go around a corner in a parking lot real quick and see if the car will slide a little bit. Okay, what do you need to do with your hands? And as we said with all driving emergencies, steering is the most important thing when it comes to losing control of your car. It's not accelerating, it's not braking. It's steering first, then braking, and in some cases, acceleration, depending if you've got front or rear, a rear wheel driven vehicle to get traction of your car. Sometimes accelerating will actually spin you out of a problem. Try to find your stop lines by using the sign. Don't look for the lines because they're going to be very difficult to see. So stop early and then inch up rather than to try to be perfect and then go too far. Make sure tires are in good shape in November before snow comes, or even October. Make sure all weather radial tires are put on your car. That's something that you're going to be able to drive with all the time. Is your car equipped with ABS? And I would probably assume that it is. All newer vehicles are equipped with ABS. I think back about 10, 15 years ago is when we started to make that a top priority. Same thing with traction control. Is your vehicle in good driving condition? So that means, do you top off your windshield washer fluid? Because a lot of grime will come off vehicles and kick onto your windshield. Do you have good winter blades? Do you have anything to brush snow off your vehicle? Because it's a law now. We're going to see a picture in a moment about taking snow off the hood of your vehicle. You will be fined in New Hampshire if you don't do that. Carry any type of shovel or sand or anything that will help aid you getting out of an area where you're stuck. I like carrying traction mats in my vehicle. That's something that you put underneath your tire and you either accelerate or and drive or reverse, and it basically grabs the surface of the snow or the ice and your tire runs on top of it. It's about 2.5 feet long. It's metal and your tires get jammed up underneath it, and you can actually get out of a stuck situation all by yourself. Sometimes, and I think this might have been in your reading, rocking the vehicle is something that you would do to get your car out of a stuck area. But if you rock the vehicle back and forth, remember, don't push it from behind. You want to push it from the side. So grab it from the trunk and on the windshield and kind of push on the side of it rather than behind. So you're going to push the car forward, tell the driver to put it in reverse, they go back, tell them to put it in drive, push forward, put it in reverse, kind of go back. Warm up your vehicle about 5 to 10 minutes before you drive it. Maybe on sub-zero temperatures, you're going to go longer than that, because what you're trying to do is to heat up the engine so all the fluids will go through all the lines smoothly. Most fluids, they don't freeze hard, but they do get thicker. So anytime that you warm it up, it's going to be a little bit better for that fluid. Watch for danger spots on the roadway. Look where puddles may form. Look for potholes. Look for areas that have a lot of shaded pine trees, because the sun will never penetrate through that area to warm up the roadway. So dry snow on ice is just going to make you just fly off the roadway. So being in those situations, look for those spots. And then carbon monoxide poisoning is any time that the tailpipe is blocked, the exhaust and the fumes of your vehicle is going to work itself inside the vehicle, and it's going to start to basically put you to sleep. It's basically killing you. And I didn't put the article, I don't know why I didn't do it. I didn't put the article in today's presentation, but I have an article from the Boston Globe about 2-3 years ago. A 10-year-old was helping his dad shovel out around his vehicle, and he got tired, so the dad told him to get in the vehicle and rest. So he went in, laid down, but they never cleared the tailpipe, and the exhaust worked its way underneath the vehicle up inside the car, and the 10-year-old basically died within 15 minutes. I mean, it can happen really, really quick. Let's take a look at another video about driving in winter weather.
There's also ice.
Ice on a roadway isn't like ice in a glass of water. You don't necessarily see it. If it's a sunny day, you can have glare on the road and it just appears that the roadway is wet when actually there is ice on the road, and it can catch you by surprise.
If you have to drive on ice, slow down to a crawl. When it's freezing or near freezing, be extra careful on bridges, overpasses, and streets shaded by trees or buildings. These areas tend to freeze before the rest of the roadway, and they're the last to thaw out. If it's icy and you approach a curve, slow down before you get to the curve. If you suddenly slow down or speed up while turning, you will go into a skid. Like ice, snow can be deceptive too.
Once it starts to pack down and then you have temperature changes where it melts some, freezes, melts some, freezes, then you end up with that icy condition again. And yes, you can see it, but it can still be very deceptive in terms of how slippery it'll actually be.
Again, it's essential to slow down. If you're driving in packed snow, cut your speed to half of what you'd normally drive. To increase traction, use snow tires or tire chains placed over the tire tread. Whether you're driving in snow or rain, the American Automobile Association gives 7 tips for safer driving. 1. Prepare in advance. Clean your windows and lights. Check the tread and pressure of your tires. Check your windshield wipers, headlights, and other equipment to make sure they're in good working order. 2. Be extra careful. Drive slower and allow extra space between your car and others. 3. Drive in the tracks of the vehicle in front of you. Since those tracks are drier than the surrounding pavement, they provide better traction. 4. Give plenty of advance notice to other drivers. If you plan to turn or slow down, let other drivers know early enough so that they have time to react safely. 5. Be alert. Watch for pedestrians trying to get out of the weather. 6. Keep your low beam headlights on. This helps you to see better and helps others to see you. And 7, ease your way into turns or curves, avoiding any sudden starts and stops. A few tips for when you and bad weather meet out on the highway. I'm Ryan Wickram.
So a lot of things that we've already talked about today was up on that video. So I thought that would give you at least a visual of what is basically going on. Now, some of these videos that I had for my keynote aren't going to work. So we'll see what happens, or I'll have to talk through it when we... This is just kind of a strange situation. We talked about warming up your car. The thing you need to remember is that you can't leave your car unlocked. So write that down in your notes. If you're warming up your vehicle, take your key fob or whatever you have to lock your car with you. Keep the key if you have it. In my case, I can just start her up, leave it, and lock it from the outside because the keys are with me. But in a lot of places, you just can't leave your car unattended and running. That was the video that we just saw. The other thing, this video actually shows some young girls that are jumping out of the vehicle because it's going downhill and it's losing traction and contact with the roadway. One thing you never, ever want to do is to jump out of your vehicle. You always want to leave it attended. The speeds that they were going down this hill, I don't think it was a life or death situation where they were going to get hit. Actually, it shows them plowing in to a parked car. So they're not really even going into an intersection, but they didn't want to hit the parked car, so they jumped out. The other thing I want you to write down is that if you ever want to get extra training and get a discount on your insurance, that New Hampshire has, I think, around 3 locations that do a winter weather driving school. It's only like one day. It's on a Saturday for about 4 or 5 hours, where they kind of talk in more depth what we're talking about today. And then they take you out to a range where there's ice and snow, and they allow you to put the car into a skid. So it's good. I haven't attended. I've seen videos of it. I know people that have gone. They recommend it. They think it's a good thing to do. So if it's something that you want more information on, I could probably give you the names. I just didn't put it into the presentation today. But you could probably just look it up, Google it, and you could get that information. Being stuck in the snow, again, stay with the vehicle. People usually freeze when they leave the vehicle. And the other thing you got to remember is that if you're walking in bad weather, especially with a wet snow. Snow is going to accumulate on you, and people that don't have good wiper blades or have bad vision, if you're covered with snow, you basically blend in with the surroundings, and this is where people are getting hit. And if you are going to walk, remember you're walking facing traffic. You're not walking in the same direction as traffic. You need to know this for the final red flag on a disabled vehicle. That shows that you have no electrical power. If you have to keep passengers warm, just start up the engine long enough to keep the car warm and then turn it off. What you're trying to do is conserve fuel. So let's go back to the scenario that we had earlier where you went over an embankment. That if your car can't be seen, and it's really, really cold out, you don't want to lose fuel in 2 or 3 hours. You want to spread that 2 or 3 hours out, and you're hoping that people are going to find you and see you. So just running it continuously is probably a little bit of a waste. Remember to crack the window a little bit to get fresh air in, because you don't know if your tailpipe is being blocked, so the exhaust could be coming back up into the passenger compartment. And if people are falling asleep, it could be more than just being tired. They could actually be feeling the ill effects of carbon monoxide poisoning. And don't panic. We already talked about what you're going to do. Situation about fog. So let's talk about fog. Now, this is a newscast that I'm going to show you. So write this down. Fog usually happens is when temperature changes from cold to warm or warm to cold. Usually early morning, late afternoon, and it's usually around bodies of water. So you're looking at rivers, ponds, creeks, bogs, swamps, oceans, lakes, anything where you have water where the temperature won't actually mimic what's happening in the atmosphere. Okay. And if you've ever been around a lake or an ocean early in the morning, you could see the fog kind of lifting up. And fog does tend to move. So even though it may seem bad, usually within a couple of minutes, it's going to be okay. So be very careful about driving with your parking lights on or your emergency flashes on. People may not read that very well. So you may want to try to find a driveway or parking lot to pull over. So this video clip that I'm going to show you is at night where it's getting dark. So it's probably like November, December, because it's pretty black, pitch black out. And a truck got rear-ended. Let me show it to you.
There's also ice.
Ice on a roadway isn't like ice in a glass of water.
Fog is considered the most dangerous of all driving hazards. The best advice for driving in fog is don't. It's simply hard to see what's around you. If you must drive, then slow down and turn on your low beam headlights. The low beams help you to see and help others to see you. Driving instructor Zandrea Baldwin emphasizes to use low beams, not high beams.
If you have your high beams on, the glare is going to come back toward you from the fog. The fog is pretty much like a light, and if your light is shining against the fog, it's going to glare back into your windshield, and it could actually cause temporary blindness.
Because of the reduced visibility, it's vitally important to slow down and stay slowed down. Also, use the right edge of the road as a guide rather than the center line. This can help you to avoid running into oncoming traffic or from becoming distracted by oncoming headlights. And don't be too proud to ask for help.
Get your passengers involved. Have the passengers help you out, checking blind spots and things of that nature for you.
If the fog gets really thick, signal and pull off the road to a protected area. Then wait for the fog to let up. While pulled over, turn on your emergency flashers to make your car more visible to others. A final note, whatever you do, don't stop in the middle of the roadway, no matter how thick the fog is. That almost guarantees that someone will hit you from behind. Again, it's best not to drive in the fog at all. If you have to, stay alert. I'm Katina McHenry.
Okay, that's not quite the video that I wanted to show you, but it still went over some of the finer points of driving in fog. I guess the other one didn't get loaded. So let's kind of go through some of the things that they mentioned. Lower your speed because it is a vision problem and not traction. This is why people go too fast, and then when they need to stop, they don't see the vehicle stopped in front of them. Low beam headlights, so make sure you know that for the final. High beams will reflect back towards you, so lower beams are going to give you a lower. Now remember, parking lights are not fog lights. Fog lights are pinched in a little bit lower than your parking lights that are right underneath your headlights. Usually they're yellow or they could be white, but they're much lower to the ground, so it kind of shows the ground a little bit better than your low or your high beams. Look to the right edge of the road. That's where your white edge line is. The state calls it a fog line. So if you hear anybody call, what's the fog line? It's the white line to the right. And when you see other vehicles, you're slowing your speed down because they might not be in the correct lane. Be ready for quick stops and keep within the vision of your, or keep within your stops within what you can see. And put your emergency flashes on, but make sure you're well off to the side of the road. Here's a article that I found in USA Today. You could see a person in the top picture where he's looking inside of his vehicle. So he was in the middle of this. There were 194 cars involved in this crash, and this is out in California. And they were only basically going about 25 to 35 miles per hour, it says in the article, way over here on the far right side. But their visibility was only 50 feet. Now you're thinking 25, 35 miles per hour on an interstate highway. That is really, really slow. But they could only see 50 feet. If we were to look at a graph about stopping distance, your stopping distance is 55 feet. So there's 5 feet that you can't see that's not accounted for. So the fog wasn't allowing you to see brake lights or cars in enough time. So cars were just continually piling up on one another. And if you take a look at the bottom picture, it is going to be hours before all these cars are going to be pulled away. Now, write this down in your notes. If you're driving in bad weather, the best lane to be in is the furthest to the right because no one is driving in the breakdown lane. Think about it. So if all these cars are slowing down and braking and hitting other cars, you've left yourself an out to the right to get around. And if you can get to the breakdown lane, you could probably travel on the breakdown lane to get to the next exit to get to where you're going. But if you're in the middle lane or the far left lane, of course your car has been hit. It probably isn't drivable, but even if it was drivable, you're going to be waiting there forever and ever and ever. So always drive on the right. Let's talk about things that you normally don't see around here. Now, I know down, I believe it was Arkansas or Louisiana this weekend, there was a tornado, I believe, where houses were just being ripped apart. The winds are going to be extremely, extremely strong in certain parts of the country. So depending on where you move away from here from, or where you're just driving as a tourist, let's take a look at driving in wind. I think I've got this.
There's also ice.
Ice.
There's wind. So you get the point of how bad it is. So when you're on a highway and you're around a large truck and it's very windy, start looking for movement of the upper part of the semi-tractor trailer truck. Never drive just to the left or to the right of it in the blind spot. We call those no zones. You want to stay further back. So when you do have one of these large vehicles come up beside you, either brake, let them go forward, or speed up to stay in front of them. But you never want to be off to the side. Another type of weather would be sand. So we're talking probably West Coast right now. We're talking about where the high winds are kicking up and it's swirling the sand around and it's almost making like a fog situation. So let's take a look at sand. You could see how bad it was. Only like a 2-3 minute long video, but as it went further towards where the sandstorm is, you could see that the vision of the driver was really being reduced. A sandstorm doesn't last that long. It's not like a snowstorm. So I would have found an area that was safe, gone to a parking lot, stayed there a little bit. But if you feel like you have to move on, you have to continue on, just like we said with all these bad wind or all these weather situations, more distance, lower speeds, and use your eyes. Use your eyes. And the last one that I'm going to show you is, and it did happen, I believe it happened in Massachusetts, and that's hail. Let's take a look at hail.
Oh, and there's that beautiful wall cloud right in front of us. That we're getting baseball size hail. Oh my gosh, bigger than baseball. Woo! We're getting close to grapefruits over here. And I got it on camera. Oh my gosh, we've got softball size hail going on. And I just got, yep, I'm okay. I just got glass all over me. We got to get out of this. Yep, that just happened.
How are you going to get out of it?
We don't just keep driving. That's all we can do. I have glass all over me.
Don't move, don't move.
If I'm gonna, oh my gosh. Yep, got that one too. Can we find a place to pull under?
I'm trying to. I think the trees can work.
Oh my gosh, this is the biggest hail I've ever seen. Oh, and it's, oh, I'm covered in glass. This,
what do you want me to do?
There's nothing you can do, man. Pull up beside that building. We've lost our windshield.
Okay, there's nothing that you actually can do with hail except run for cover, which means you're looking for a gas station that has a place to go under, some type of canopy. You're looking for an underpass. But in his case, what he should have done is he should have looked for any type of a tree that he could have pulled his car pretty close up next to and let the shade from the tree But he was in a wide open area in the Midwest, and he was just getting pelted. And as you could see from the windshield, that was pretty serious hail. I don't think I've ever seen anything that big. I've seen it about the size of like dimes. That's about as big as I've seen. I've seen it where it's put little dings in a vehicle, but I haven't seen windshields being broken. So it will make a little ding on the roof and the hood of your vehicle, but won't break a glass. Uh, Rain is the thing that we see the most, and it rained yesterday. I guess it's still pretty damp, raining possibly right now. I can't really see outside. But let's talk a few things. Rain is more of a visibility problem than traction. The term that I want you to write down for the final is hydroplaning. Hydroplaning is when your tires are hitting water on the roadway and it's lifting up. Your tire is lifting up on the surface of the water. And the best analogy that I can give you would be like skipping stones on water. If you've ever seen a rock hit the water, it hits it, comes out, goes back in, comes back out. And depending on how hard you hit it, at what angle, you could probably get 2, 3, 4, 5 skips. The same thing. Your car's not going to probably lose complete control, but you're going to feel a moment of no steering ability. So in your notes, write down, you're not going to be able to steer, accelerate, or brake. Because the tires are off the road, you have no contact with the road, so you can't do anything. So anything you do with your steering wheel or your brakes or your accelerator, the minute you grip the road, now your car is going to do that. Now the car is going to accelerate. Now the brakes are going to grab hold, or the car is going to pull to the right or pull to the left. If it is a traction problem, if you start having problems driving in wet weather, it's going to either be your tires or speed. So make sure you have good tires and drive at a reasonable speed. Don't go above the speed limit. You should probably never encounter hydroplaning when you drive. In the summertime, rain can be dangerous in the first half hour because of the heat. The pavement is really warm and oil drops from your vehicle near stop lines, parking spots, parking lots, and it pools. It makes a little black area. So if you hit that surface, then it's going to make you skim. And Josie, you're right. It's like skimming board at the beach. Very much so. That's a good analogy. Probably better than skipping stones. So you wouldn't think that you would take a board and be able to run on a beach with a little bit of water, but people can go for a good distance. Same thing with your car. And really, how much water do you need on the road to hydroplane? Anything that's deeper than the tread of your tire. So we know the minimum tread depth of your tire is 2/32 of an inch. We talked about the top of Lincoln's head to the top of the coin. So if you've got more space, okay, of his head showing, then you've got very thin tread on your car and you're going to start to hydroplane. Remember, the only reason why we have tread is to move snow and rain away from the roadway so you get better contact. So what is the law? Oh, wet leaves in the fall start to pile up. So what will happen is that your tire will be on the top surface of the top layer of leaves. The bottom layer is going to stay put, and you're just going to push. You're going to just push those leaves. So even though you think it's nice out, the moisture of the leaves is still there, and you come around a corner on a back road, very common to have it seem like hydroplaning, but you're just skimming on the top level of the leaves. Headlights. Make sure you know this, half hour after sunset to a half hour before sunrise. I believe it's in your state manual. I will test you on that for the final next week. Always signal and brake well ahead. And what is the difference between a puddle and a pothole? Okay, a puddle is going to be very gradual. It slopes down and then it comes back up, and water is going to level off. So your car is going to come in nice and gentle and then come out nice and gentle. A pothole is going to drop you down into an area, maybe 3 or 4 inches. The tire is going to go down into that area and then come out abruptly. And a lot of times you're going to feel a jerk of the wheel, and you're going to probably have your alignment skewed a little bit. So if you drive too fast and go over these potholes, then you're going to do a real job on the front end of your car. Your tires will wear out a lot quicker. You're not going to track correctly. It's just a real mess. So, and the other thing that you could tell it's a pothole is you can see around the edges. If you see a body of water with edges, with pavement around the edges of the water, that's where people have hit the pothole and have started to break it away. So stay away from the areas. You can straddle it, or you can go around it. Those are the two options that you have with puddles. Make sure that your headlights are on all the time in bad weather. Snow, sleet, rain, fog, you need headlights, because you could see right in that area between the three red arrows, there is a car that's a lot closer than the cars that have their headlights on. Let's see if I've got one for rain.
Fog is considered the most dangerous of all driving hazards. The best advice for driving in fog is don't. It's simply hard.
Okay, let's see if I can find it off to the side here. I thought I had loaded all of them in. Hailstorm. No, I don't see it. So hydroplaning begins at speeds around 35 miles per hour, so make sure that you have that written down in your notes. The likelihood increases with speeds, especially on back roads. So hydroplaning, because the roadways aren't built as well with the crowned or the banked roadway. So highways, you're not going to hydroplane that much as you are on some of your rural back roads. And remember that you can't brake, accelerate, or steer. So what do we do to reduce? We reduce our speed in heavy rain where we see it forming on the road or slushy conditions. We reduce our speed near standing water or puddles, because we know the car's going to, even if you don't hydroplane, you hit a surface of water or puddle, it's going to pull. You're going to feel the steering wheel just kind of pull towards the puddle. So if you're going to go through a puddle, make sure that you're hitting the edges. Don't go through the middle, because remember, the middle of any surface of water is going to be the deepest part. Replace your tires when worn. Keep your tires properly inflated to provide you maximum traction. Try to go straight ahead. So if you are hydroplaning, always keep your steering wheel aiming towards you where you want to drive. So when you hit the surface of the road again, you're going to be going in that direction. Always take your foot off the accelerator, because it's going to be a steering problem. Steering left or right is going to only push you into another lane or off the edge of the road. And then when you do feel you've got contact with the road, then you're going to basically brake. Okay, night driving. What I want you to write down: more people are dying at night than they do during the day. Now, there's three categories of people that I want you to write down. Let's see if someone could put it in the comments. I still see, let's see if I can get up here. Looks like everybody's still, oh, one person dropped off. I saw 16 eyes, now I've got 15. Someone just left. Write down a category that you think would be passing away, dying in a car at night, right? Think of one of the categories. There's three. I'm going to give you just a minute. It's going to give me a chance to take a drink of water. Okay, the comments should be coming in soon, but let me give you the three. Young people, because you drive faster at night. Older people, because they don't see as well. And the last group, people under the influence of alcohol and drugs. That's kind of a lead into what we're going to do. No headlights on? I'm confused. No, we're talking about types of people, groups of people, Natalie. But yeah, there could be people driving around with no headlights on, that's for sure. People will leave a parking lot and they'll drive away and forget that they've turned their lights off, and when they get back out into the road. Yep, drunk drivers, good. Yep, yep. Jacob's right too. Night blindness, that would be your elderly people. So you guys are getting it. Good. Drunk driving, good, good, good. So night vision, you can't see distance well or things as well as you can during the daytime. Overdriving your headlights, make sure you have that definition written down. Is when you can't stop within the distance that your lights illuminate. I probably will show you sometime Thursday video on animals. Animals are more likely to be hit and killed at night because by the time the animal kind of drifts in towards the area of the roadway, you don't have enough time to stop and you kill the animal. High beam shine about 350 feet, low beam shine about 100. And I already gave you what the law states. So once again, you need to know this for the final next week is your headlights on. And I will try to confuse you, and the state will try to confuse you. So you've got to remember a half hour after sunset to a half hour before sunrise. Now, the reason why it has to be in that order is that when the sun sets, it goes below the horizon. It's still light out. So they're giving you a half hour after that point before legally you have to have your lights on. Then you have your lights on all night long. And then in the morning before you see the sun, it's going to be light out. So a half hour before the sun is actually up in the sky where you can see it, then your lights don't have to be on after that point. But things are going to be switched around. It's going to get kind of tricky. So try to remember it. Driving at night. I don't know if I've got some of these things down. I think I just did. I didn't find that. Okay, this is another one that I usually have to show you, but I just don't have loaded. Glare. So let's talk about glare. Your day-night adjustments on your rear view mirror. So you're going to flip that, okay? And what you're doing is you're taking the reflection of the high beams that are glaring right at you, and you're putting the reflection to the top of the car. That's what the changing of the rear view mirror is going to do. But there's a little lever right underneath it. Side mirrors, if you kick it out a little bit further, you're not going to get the glare of lights coming right at you. So just kick your mirrors out just a little bit further. With oncoming headlights coming at you and the new lights that are kind of a bluish tint to them, very, very blinding. Look off to the white edge line, that fog line, that's going to guide you. Fatigue, highway hypnosis, happens more often than you think. Happens between the hours of 12 and 6 and mid-afternoon. Mid-afternoon would probably be more for older people. Have you ever been visiting your grandparents and after a big meal, your dad or your granddad gets into a recliner, and before you know it, they're falling asleep. So older people have a tendency to take naps, and if they're trying to drive during that time, it's just not going to work. Don't fight it. Try to get rest, and we're going to talk about other options. So what I want you to do right now, and we're probably, I'm going to see what you have for responses. So what I want you to write down right now is I want you to put in the comment box what time that you normally go to sleep Monday through Friday on a school week. Okay, so I'm looking for you to write down 10 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 9:30. So just put down in the comments reactions. So I see that you're still here. I'm going to pull up here. There's 13 people. 2 people have left. So I'm going to try to find out who's left right now. So we're almost near the end. So hang in there with me. So what I want to see people do, I want to see the 13 people that are still with me. So what time do you normally go to sleep between Monday and Friday? Okay, 8 o'clock, 10 o'clock. So this is going to help me find out who's still here. Wow. 12-1. Hey, Clayton, that's cool. You stayed with us. I have a feeling Joey's not with us anymore. There's Jacob. Good. Okay, I see a few people that have checked out. I don't see Maddie. There's Devin. Well, one more person on. So Joey, and I don't see Maddie on anymore. Oh, there she is. Oh, I get you, Maddie. I'm sorry. 10 o'clock. I get you. Definitely haven't seen Joey. So I'm going to have to write this down. Okay. It's something called circadian rhythm. So what we're going to basically talk about beginning of tomorrow before we get into alcohol, we're going to talk about why fatigue is such a big deal. It's going to affect everybody. Fatigue happens to everybody when they drive. And the problem is that most people won't do anything about it, which means that they don't apply techniques to help keep them awake. So I'm going to do one more comment to see who's still here. Is I want you to write down, what do you think would help you get home if you're starting to feel a little bit tired? Let me give you, I'm sorry, Maddie. I'm going to give you some examples to choose from. Okay. So here's your choices: soft drink or coffee that has caffeine. Get out of the car, get exercise, let someone else drive, turn on the radio, put down the windows, um, sing out loud, have a conversation with somebody. So what I want you to do is I want you to put down, what do you think would be the best thing for you to do to give you a little bit of lift so you're not so tired to get home. So I'm going to see people. Oh, Joey, you just jumped in. Someone must have texted you. Let's see what my numbers are. 14. All right. It's not bad. All right. So everybody just kind of jump in with a comment of how you're going to stay awake if you're fatigued. And then I'm going to wrap this up. Let someone else drive. Taxi. That's good. Even with Uber. All of them you would use. Good. Let someone else drive. Yep. Jacob says do all the above. Clayton. Caffeine. Josie. Brooke. Let someone else drive. Joey, let someone else drive. The thing about letting someone else drive, you got to just make sure that Hannah says let someone else drive too. Sing or talk. Good. Luca, someone else drive. But you got to make sure the person that is going to be driving is awake. Because if someone falls asleep and you've just switched over and they're getting tired, they're going to be falling asleep with someone that's already asleep right next to them. So we're going to basically kind of finish this up because I'm kind of losing my voice a little bit for today. But I did want to kind of go over a few things about tomorrow. So in your notes, write down, we're going to start a section on alcohol and drugs. And I want you to read chapter 18 from the textbook and do the assessment questions. And what I would like you to do is to write a 2 to 3 paragraph situation of what would you do to someone that was involved in an alcohol related crash that killed somebody. All right. So let me repeat that. I want you to give me what you think would be fair penalties for a drunk driver that goes out and kills somebody with their vehicle. All right? That's going to be your homework assignment. Chapter 18, read it, do the assessment, and then give me 2 or 3 paragraphs of what you think the penalty should be for someone that's, well, let's make it twofold, because 2 or 3 paragraphs is quite a bit. What would you do to the person that just gets caught drinking and driving and they're above the legal limit? And what would you do with a person that is actually injuring or killing somebody? What would be the difference? What would actually happen? So I want a little bit of discussion with our notes for tomorrow on alcohol, and we'll call today good. So tomorrow, alcohol and drugs. We're going to talk about behavior, and then we're going to kind of ease into the penalties. That may leak into Wednesday's class a little bit. And then we're going to do probably road rage, and then we're going to do insurance on Thursday. So that's what's on the agenda for this week. So I want to thank all of you for tuning in and staying with us. It looks like we get about 16, 17 people as it is. So that is good. I can give you credit. If anybody knows what happened to, was it Sakiva? I have no idea. I've texted her. She's responded a couple times, but I have not seen her online, so she's not going to be able to get credit for this. But the rest of you, pretty much, I think I can give you credit. So thank you for hanging in there and doing this, because I don't want this to back up. So have a good night, and we'll see you guys tomorrow.